Mom, you won't leave me alone. Mom, he's picking on me.
If you know your party's extension, please dial it now.
Houston, we have a problem.
Sick of all this complaining all the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Multitasking in Heels. We're thrilled to have you here with us today. We have a pretty big topic to share with all of you on addiction and recovery. Nearly 20 million Americans have at least one addiction, yet only 10% receive treatment, which could be because they don't want to admit that they have a problem or they can't afford treatment or whatever it is. But drug and alcohol addiction costs the U.S. economy over $600 billion a year. And joining us today is Henry Ward, a recovering alcoholic and drug addict, whose new book, Running Without the Devil, details his personal story of addiction and recovery. Full disclosure, Henry's also my cousin and in fact used to babysit my sisters and I back in the day. But although this is a very intense topic, we always like to start things off a little bit light. So Henry, as our guest, would you share with us your pump and flat moments of the week? Although I don't know what it would be for a guy, Linz. We never talked about that, but basically your high and low moments of the week.
He could have a Nike pump.
Yeah, the only thing I really wear is flats, but running flats. I guess my pump of the week, and this has just been kind of a blur. We live in Arizona and visiting my mother here in Waltham, Massachusetts. We've been here for about 2 weeks, but everything's a blur. Like I literally thought today was Sunday again for like the 100th time. And so it just kind of all blend together. But my pump from about, a week and a half ago, a week ago, Christmas Eve. We had the family over here and it's my mom's birthday and we celebrated. Sebastian, all of a sudden, my sister gave my mom the painting of Leonardo, half jaguar, half leopard that Sebastian painted. It went for auction. My sister outbid everybody, and we surprised her with that gift. And so she was obviously touched by that. She kept asking us for a copy, and I'll send it to you. And it just, I just never got around to it because we were going to give her the real deal. And then all of a sudden it kind of hit Sebastian and he just kind of went over and hugged her and said, "Oh my God, I'm so happy." He just broke down hysterically and, tears of joy. And I'm just so happy to be here. It was just really a cool moment. When we told him that we were coming to, 2 weeks ago, we don't want to tell him too early because they get too obnoxious and hyped up. Right. But we had to prepare him for the, the plane, the masks and everything else, just kind of reinforce the things we've been doing, but on a different level. So I wrote down a piece of paper. We'll be going to Boston for the holidays, and I cast it onto the Google Chromecast, a little Google Home thing, and he had the same reaction. He just broke down. He was so happy. He had just got through talking to my mother on the phone saying, I can't wait to do the Zoom call. She's like, "What Zoom call?" Like when we get to open the presents, 2,700 miles away, let's see my cousin and see what they got, and they could show what I got and so on and so forth. But when he found out he was coming, and then, he broke down, and he's just a really emotional and sweet boy. And, he can be a terror too, but it was pretty cool to see that emotion and then to see it really surface a little bit more on Christmas Eve. And everybody was there. Everybody was kind of, really touched by it. So that was my pump moment.
Yeah, and to see the bond that he has with your mom is so heartwarming. Even though you guys are, 2,700 miles away, like you said, that just bond is, knows no bounds.
Yeah, and it was a huge decision for us to come here. Obviously,
right?
We took all precautions and everything like that, and to make it happen, to pull it off, and to be there, and that moment was pretty special. It's something I'll never forget. So that was my pump.
So I know you're an eternal optimist, but you must have had a flat moment at some point. So what was that?
I've had a few. It's been the last couple of days have been kind of a grind. I think it's the eternal darkness, the gloom and doom of the season, and lack of sunlight. In Arizona, we have so much sunlight and people are happier. And I don't know. I think my all-time low, my flat for here happened in the first couple of days too. I went to Market Basket. Are you familiar with Market Basket?
Unfortunately.
and so right. So everybody's had, experiences there. It's usually a pretty busy store. And I had dropped Alejandra, my wife, off at Burlington. She was just going to walk around the Burlington Mall in the warmth and enjoy some conversation with her friend safely. And so I know I'll go running, but before I do that, I'll go to Market Basket in Burlington. And it was, a busy day, I guess, there as always. And, first of all, trying to get a parking spot was a challenge. People are just like aggressively, just doing their thing and like, whatever, I'll just dump the car off here. I'm a runner. I don't mind walking an extra 50 yards or whatever, So I work my way in the store, and then it's just complete chaos. There's arrows going every which direction. You're supposed to, there's one ways, and I'm like, that's fine. It's kind of like that back home. I'm used to that. But people weren't necessarily obeying that. And so it's like, I'm going to start to get anxious. I got to get through the store and get through the list and get the hell out of here. I'm going to go for a run before I go insane. So I started kind of picking up my pace a little bit. So I was going down the right way, like I'm supposed to. And on the right side, and I come out, and a lady like literally like assaulted me with her cart. I'm like, OMFG. You just, and I looked at her, and she was like, 60, 65, looked like very nice lady, makeup, and, I just looked at her, and she just kind of grimaced at me, and she's like, and I said, you just hit me with your, I can't believe you just hit me with your cart. She's like, that's right. She's like, you were speeding. You came out of the aisle too fast. Why don't you watch where you're going? And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Literally, like, it wasn't just like a little love tap, like she brushed me. She hit me like in my fibula, my ankle bone, and it hurt. Like she really like hit me with it, and like with good intention or bad intention, depends which way you want to look at it.
We have so many grocery store interactions on this.
This is the second time someone's come on the podcast and had a flat moment that involved an old lady at the grocery store. They are dangerous.
Yes.
So I turn the corner, and I make my right down the other one way and go down to the, to get my Cliff Bars or whatever. And I stopped, and I'm like, wait a minute. She went down the one way, the wrong way, and she was on the wrong side of the lane. That's not on me. And, so I went back looking for her, and I said, you know what? The old me probably would have smashed her into the seafood case and dunked her head in the lobster tank. But I basically just said to her, gee, I hope you have, a great Christmas or something.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't me. Maybe I was speeding, but that was completely unnecessary.
Oh God, I know. And it's like this time of year, people should be more thankful and grateful and compassionate, but they're just angrier, and the pandemic isn't helping that at all.
Yeah, and I think they've become a little more aggressive in the supermarket.
Agreed.
So beware. They're out there.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Linz, what about you?
That was great, Henry. Thanks for sharing. My pump moment has been that I've had so much more clarity lately, which has been awesome, because I feel like the pandemic has put a huge fog on everybody. And like Henry was saying, that you feel like you're in a Sunday every day. And so it's just been nice, because I feel like I've come out of this fog a little bit and can think clearer. So that has been relatively nice. My flat moment is that my son is a 13-year-old, very active kid. He plays hockey and lacrosse. And about 3 weeks ago, a month ago now, he played in a game of box lacrosse. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's like hockey and lacrosse mixed. It's a smaller field indoors, but it's lacrosse with like hockey borders, and you can hit harder, and it's an aggressive sport. It's pretty awesome to watch. My son loves it. And he got hit pretty hard by a huge kid, and he saw it coming, and he planted his feet, and his knee twisted. And afterwards, he told my husband and I that it hurt really bad. And he has Osgood-Schlatter's, which is knee growth plate problems. And so we were like, oh, it's probably just the Osgood-Schlatter's. Why don't you take a rest and ice like we always do? And it wasn't getting better. And so we took him off the ice for a while and out of lacrosse practice, and then it still wasn't getting better. So we went to his doctor's, went and got an x-ray. The x-ray showed that he had a healing fracture. So we were like, And Brayden was like, I told you something was wrong. And then we had to get an MRI, and he had a tear in his patella. So the poor kid is really down and out because he needs to move, he needs to be active, and he literally still has 4 more weeks of icing his knee 3 times a day, taking a severe amount of ibuprofen, and he's missing out on all this fun stuff that his friends are doing. So it's just sad to watch him be laid up on a couch. So that's my flat.
And their kids are already missing out on so much as it is.
Yeah.
So it's heartbreaking that, I mean, not only is he an active kid, but he's a great athlete and he loves his sport. So it's such a bummer to not see him be able to. And I know you guys love to watch him too. So it's a bummer for the whole family that, he's been sidelined for a while.
I know. What's your pump and flat moment, Liz?
So for me, my pump moment was, I have to thank this podcast, actually, Lindsey, for the pump moment, because I reconnected with an old friend from high school. She had DM'd me on Facebook like a week or so after the first episode aired, and just saying that she really enjoyed listening. And she also has a son with ADHD. And so we were just sort of commiserating kind of back and forth on things and kind of catching up over DMs. And I said, hey, if you ever want to get together for dinner or something, let me know. And so we actually got together last week. For 4 hours, we just talked nonstop. It was so crazy. It was like when I first saw her, I was like, when was the last time we actually laid eyes on each other? And I think it was high school graduation or shortly thereafter.
Seriously.
Yeah. So long time. I'm not going to say how many years, but I'm in my mid 40s. So, and it was we picked up right where we left off. We had a great conversation, talked about everything, tons of laughs. At one point, Danny texted me, he's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" And he's like, "Well, you told me you're going to meet someone for dinner that, you haven't seen in X number of years." He's like, and it's 4 hours later. I was just a little worried something happened, but we had a blast, and I'm looking forward to catching up with her again. So shout out Christine. Thank you for being my pump moment. But it was just kind of reinforced how important it is to stay engaged with people and maintain relationships, and how valuable those connections with people are. And again, we hadn't talked or seen each other in forever, but we sat down and had this really great conversation. My flat moment also involves my son. Report cards came out, people, and I won't go in, out of respect for his privacy, I will not go into any details. However, it just reinforced the fact that my kid needs to be in school 5 days a week, that 2 days in school and 3 days of remote learning are not doing him any favors. And no matter how many accommodations the school is providing or how on top of it Danny and I are trying to be, he's not cut out for this type of situation, as many kids are not. And he even said, he's like, "Mom, I wouldn't be struggling so bad if I could go to school every day. I would rather go to school every day." And that broke my heart, because we're failing him. The school system is failing him. I know not everybody agrees with this, but I do think our kids need to be back in school full time. That's my personal opinion. You can have your personal opinion, but when I look at my child and I see how he's suffering, it breaks my heart. So, and that might end up leading to conversations about, do you repeat 7th grade? Do we send you to private school? I don't worry about it. For my little, my 3rd graders and Henry for Sebastian's, they're still little, they'll be okay. But for older kids, essentially missing out on a year plus of traditional in-school learning, when they're supposed to be getting ready for high school. They're supposed to be learning about accountability and good study habits and executive function. He's unfortunately being set up to fail. And Danny and I lay awake at night, worrying about this, because we don't know how to help him. And there's no end in sight either. I don't think our school will be sending kids back full time this year, unfortunately. So that's my flat moment, which is a bummer, because we all just want our kids to be successful and happy and healthy and be set up for success. And that's just not the world we're living in right now, which is heartbreaking.
That is.
So anyway, let's get into our topic. So Henry, before we kind of get into your story and your history with substance abuse, can you just tell us why you chose the title of your book, Running Without the Devil. Tell us about the meaning of that.
Okay. So basically, for years, I tell people I kind of ran with the devil. Maybe the devil was some of my friends, but it was me. It kind of came from inside. It was the addict in me. I felt kind of possessed at times. I was going to a liquor store without even realizing it. It just became a habit every day. And when I got low, I would go back. So I always felt like I had this devil. I think we all have it in us, right? And I always say, like, there's like the good Fred Flintstone on this shoulder and the bad one on this one, that's, hey, dum go to the store and go get another 12-pack of beer or something like that. So, it's easier to cave into the bad Fred Flintstone, to listen to those voices in your head. So, I kind of listened to the devil, for many years, and, until really I received treatment. And then, I'm not free of those demons. Life and keeps happening, good and bad, whether it's the pandemic or something else. There's always going to be bad things that happen, and we can fall down a downward spiral pretty easy. But I feel like I'm on a much better path now. I'm listening to the good Fred Flintstone more now. I'm kind of not free of the demons, but they're still there, but they're not as prevalent, and I don't really listen to them anymore either. So yeah.
How old were you, Henry, when you first started drugs and alcohol? And was it peer pressure, or did you just start experimenting on your own?
No, I would say I was a late bloomer. Alcohol and drugs too. I mean, mostly alcohol were prevalent around me, in my family, my immediate family, my extended family. And then, neighbors, pretty much everywhere I looked, what I saw was people getting messed up. It wasn't just, social drinking. It's just kind of, that's what people did. When they drank to not oblivion, but to be loud and obnoxious and really not present. And I didn't like that at all. I didn't like that, what alcohol turned people into. And I vowed never to drink. I didn't want to be like that. And in retrospect, I look back and I had I still have it, an addictive personality. If I have one Dorito, I got to have the 3-pound bag. I'm going to eat ice cream, even though I'm getting slammed with cold headaches. I'm going to finish it, and I'm going to be left feeling more. I want more. With an addict, there's nothing in moderation. And I should have really seen those signs. I was addicted to baseball cards. I was addicted to collecting tropical fish. You name it. Obsessive. I needed to have everything. So I was a little bit scared of what alcohol possibly could do to me. So I waited. I think the first time I really drank, I usually talk about that. The first time I drank at my friend's house, like on Sunday with his family, an Italian family, and I have a couple of glasses of wine. And that was the first time I kind of got like the taste. And I was like, oh, this is good. The warm glow and the feeling of kind of an out-of-body experience. And then the first time we really drank, we had the opportunity, somebody bought us like, a couple of cases of whatever, Seagram's wine coolers, wild berry wine coolers. And I didn't like the taste or the smell of beer. And, I probably polished off as many as I could, 15, 16 of those. And apparently I slid down a railing in my friend's backyard and like smashed my head and my back and all the jagged rocks. And, I woke up a bloody mess and, a smashing headache on the porch in a sleeping bag, not really remembering much of what went on. I remember having a really good time. I'm like, man, I feel like a rock star, in a good way and a bad way. Once the cobwebs cleared a little bit and I showered and ate something, and that hangover, foggy feeling and the smashing headache went away. It was like, I can't wait to do this all over again. And then the next weekend or the weekend after, we had the opportunity to drink again. I drank to oblivion, to blackout. And pretty much every time I drank, it was like that. And if I didn't, if it was a social setting where, at a family event or something where it wasn't necessarily appropriate, or I got shut off, it was only a matter of time before I drank like I wanted to again. The more time I had in my hands, the more I would drink. I go down to my wife's family in Mexico the first year that I'd gone down there, and they're like, they can have one beer like the whole night, or like a half a shot of tequila. Like, I'm looking around like, aren't you going to finish that? Are you going to slam that down and have another one? Or they leave it and just pour it out. Like, my God, what a waste. That costs money, or I could use that. But no, I can never drink in moderation, so I was 17 years old. And then once I became a senior, I started seeking out those parties and those opportunities to really get messed up like I wanted to. And that changed me.
So walk us through your story of addiction and how things progressed from, you just having a bunch of wine coolers to, maybe harder stuff or drugs and whatnot, and kind of what were some kind of frightening moments as an addict?
Sure. Okay. So, high school, I drank a little bit more when I was 18. I was a senior and did not really want to be in school. I didn't like high school. And, sometimes we go drinking in the woods or it had escalated, after high school. I had worked, I went to college and that really wasn't for me. I tried it a couple times full time in the nights. And I found that I started smoking weed a lot then. I found that I wasn't able to study or want to be in school if I was smoking weed. And when that wasn't enough, I'd start drinking. I just started seeking out different friends, and I wouldn't really do anything then unless I could get weed or, smoke weed or drink beer. And then once I was 21, I could buy it myself. So I'd drive up to New Hampshire on a Saturday morning when the liquor stores or the gas stations open up at 6 and like, all right, well, I don't need this iced coffee or this bagel anymore, this banana. Let's have a couple beers to kind of feel better and get rid of this hangover. And yeah, I just started developing these weird habits. So I was drinking a lot of beer and kind of living that lifestyle, not eating properly, go out to eat and get an order of mozzarella sticks, and spend the rest of the money on beer, and started smoking a lot of weed. And, I hung around with people that did the same things as I did. And that's just kind of, became part of my DNA.
Did you seek those people out? Or did you abandon other friends who maybe weren't doing the same thing that you were and seek out new friends? Or
Yeah. I mean, I did some of the friends that didn't smoke weed. I wouldn't necessarily hang around with them too much anymore because they didn't have anything I needed. It was kind of selfish or whatever, self-centered. And then later on down the road, like if someone said, hey, we're going out for lunch or going to Panera Bread, like, no, I don't want to go. They don't serve beer. I can't, I don't drink soda. I can get water anywhere. I have water here. Why would I want to go there? There's really not much there for me. Spend $10 on a sandwich. No, thanks. But no, I just, in my 20s, after I turned 21, I was pretty much drinking every day. And then I found different ways. Like I started thinking I probably had a problem. People would tell me, my family and my friends, do you think you have a problem or you have a problem? And no, I don't think so. I just enjoy doing it. I'm not bothering anybody. And so I remember signing up for the gym. I was 21 and I felt great. The endorphins are kicking from that. And, I changed my body composition and, my outlook when I was working out. I felt great. But then I started kind of rewarding myself with beer after, like, it was a great workout. I'll go get a 6-pack. So I go get a 6-pack of Sam Adams or whatever. And, then the next day my workout was kind of lousy, maybe dragging ass a little bit from the drinking and, a little bit dehydrated or whatever. And then, my workout, the gym wasn't really doing it for me. I kept going. It wasn't doing it like it was. And speed up to 1999, I had the opportunity to go around the United States in an RV. And I thought maybe that would change me. I thought about moving to the West Coast and that would kind of be a way to sober up, but it ended up being just like one big party. All we did was camp and drink. And we did a lot of cool things, visited national parks and whatnot, saw some sites that I'll probably never see again. And then, I decided that I was going to go to culinary school. I wouldn't have time to drink or use or anything. I was going to work full time and go to culinary school full time. And there wouldn't be any time to drink. Well, it became stressful trying to manage, your life and then, escape, try to have a social life. So when I did escape, guess what I did? I tore it up pretty good. In a little downtime, the less sleep I had, like the less time to sleep, affected me the next day. So I drink until the last minute, get 3 or 4 hours of sleep, and then go to try to work 8, 10, 12 hours a day, and then study, and then try and do laundry, and gotta get gas, gotta do this, and go to school. And, it became a vicious cycle. And, I basically just broke down mentally and physically. I did really well in school, but I was a mess. It turned me kind of into a monster, and I lost feeling in my right arm. Like I couldn't even for 3 months during school. So that made me even more depressed and, pity party, and I drank even more. But again, I really enjoyed culinary school. I kind of gave it my all. I could have done better, obviously, if I wasn't drinking, but, really that was kind of a way out. Like if I go to culinary school, I can get out of my parents' house. I can make this amount of money and I'll be happy. And, I won't drink as much if I'm happy, but, you really, you keep telling yourself these things, but you really need to get treatment. And, I wasn't ready to do that. So 2004, I decided to move to Arizona, and I had met Alejandra online. Long story short, I had gone out to Arizona and found this Yahoo Personal. I was just get into the internet and kept getting these emails from Yahoo Personal. I didn't even know what it was. I get Yahoo Sports, Yahoo News. And so it said, find couples in your area or something. So when I went out to Arizona for a week and a half, I was kind of thinking about moving out there. And I had reached out to some ladies, and I connected with one. We had chatted, a bunch of times beforehand. And, I thought she was going to be the one for me. When I get out there, I knew everything about her, and it didn't really stick. So I get back, and Alejandra had written me a huge email, like a 5 or 6 paragraph, well thought out email. And I thought it was super thoughtful. We connected, and I made arrangements to move to Arizona. And finally I was like, I'm going to get sober. I kind of put the feelers out there, and she's like, I'll have a beer or two while, watching sports, but that's about it. I don't drink that much. And kind of tested her out. I'm like, all right, well, she'll keep me sober. So the sobriety lasted, a couple of days, and that was about it. And then she started questioning me, like, why do I have to drink? Why do I have to drink every day? And I was like, I'm on vacation. I'm just kind of enjoying my time, getting settled in here. Oh, I had a bad day. Oh, there's a basketball game. Oh, there's a hockey game on. It's raining. It's cold. It's sunny. I had a good day. I had another bad day. And just like, you keep going through this Rolodex of excuses. And like, so she was kind of on to me. And then I had like a really blackout moment where I drank too much tequila and rum, or both, or whatever. And I was passed out on the kitchen floor when she came home from work, and she was scared, and she kind of sort of gave me an ultimatum. Again, she didn't come from a background of alcoholics, and didn't really know what she didn't know who she was dating, really. It was me, this monster that's got this facade of I just like to party every now and then, but really, a raging alcoholic underneath. And so she wakes me up, and I don't know where I am or what's going on. And I just told her, yeah, I just drank too much. I've been really bummed out. I'm going to stop. And so, for a week or so, I was fine. And then over the first couple of years of our marriage, my health started deteriorating. I found myself in urgent care, 5, 6, 7 times with gastritis and other alcohol related things that happened to me. And, our marriage, financials, had to sell the house, put the house for sale, and just everything, my work, everything was kind of deteriorating. And so I went to China for the Olympics. I'm a chef by trade, and I accepted a 4-month short-term assignment over there. And I had gone to AA, and we were going to family counseling before I left, and I was supposed to be sober. In my mind, I had a good foundation. I was going to go over there and not drink, but guess what happened as soon as I got on the plane? It was like a switch was flipped. It was on. I don't even remember. I probably had 3 or 4 drinks on the way to San Francisco, which is like an hour and 15-minute flight. Whatever they could give me. And then, made the transfer over to, Beijing Airlines or whatever it was in China, and found my way over to Beijing somehow, some way. And I drank the whole time, I either drank or slept. I passed out. I woke up there. I'm like, holy shit, I'm here. I'm in China now. What? And after a couple of days, I talked to her on the phone, and she knew that I was drinking. I was repeating myself, or just, she knew every time. And she said, you know what? Be careful out there. Learn as much as you can. This is great for your resume, great experience. Not that many people can say that they've gone to China for the Olympics and worked it and so on and so forth. Soak it up. When you come back, if you're not sober, if forever, then, I'm going to give you an ultimatum. I'm leaving. And so, okay, no problem. So I tore it up out there, and that was kind of like the last hurrah. And I found there was a couple other alcoholics and addicts that did the same thing. So like, we're all in this together, we go back, everything's going to be different. Yeah. And when I got back, it was fine. I was in a good place. I couldn't wait to be on American soil and eat, different food and stuff that I was used to see her. And, I had a new job waiting for me. So I had some clarity again, speaking of clarity, right? I had clarity for the first time in like 4 months, and, a different outlook. And I thought I was doing okay. I went to AA, and they gave us a dinner in Orlando. And do you want me to go to the rock bottom now, or you want me to wait?
No, yeah, this is where I need
okay.
Your rock bottom, Henry.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that. So, all right. So we'll tie this with this, just kind of keep going with the story. So, They gave us a dinner. My company gave us a dinner in Orlando. And so basically I flew out there for 14 hours. And my wife was going out there for a dinner or a couple of days for work, like 3 or 4 days for work. Ironically, she never really traveled for work. And she was going to the same place, same area, 8-10 miles away. Like, holy shit, this is crazy. So she's like, we got to connect when we're in Orlando. Sounds good, So I get out there before she does. And I had already primed myself on the plane again. And then once I got there, it was like, oh, welcome, here, this is where the event is. And we're just going to hang out. And then we're going to do a cocktail hour. And then we're going to do this. And then we're going to have dinner. Then we're going to have a reward ceremony. So they had a whole schedule of events. And so I met up with some colleagues that I went to China with. And guess what happened? As soon as I got off the plane, I was double fisted, triple fisted. Do you want champagne? Do you want wine? Yes. Beer. Sure. What type of beer? All of it, just keep giving it to me. It's free and I deserve it. And I'll be able to hide this from my very intelligent wife that knows me better than I do. And so when she called on the phone, I was like, they're doing, well, we're just doing like check-in now. And, just kind of beating around the bush. And all right, well, keep me posted. Let's get together. And, I said, obviously after dinner, right? And so like, as I had a couple of phone calls there, as the conversations went on, I repeated myself more, and she knew, and she said, you know what, don't call me anymore. Wait till we get home. We'll have a conversation. Don't text me. Bye. And she hangs up. And then, of course I call her right back, and oh my God, it goes right to voicemail. She shut her phone off. So immediately it was her fault. Alcoholics and addicts blame everybody else. We're never accountable. And this case was her fault. She hung up on me. She didn't want to talk to me. I could explain myself. But obviously I couldn't. I was a babbling fool and this raging alcoholic that would not have made any sense no matter what I said, and I was in the wrong. So I texted her and called her 150,000 times, and each time I did that, every time I pressed the numbers, I got more and more angry. So then we had the dinner party, and I was sitting with the president of higher education. I was working in higher education, the director of human resources for all of my worldwide company, the vice president of the company, and a few other higher ups. Little did I know. And I proceeded to, once they called my name after the dinner, go up to the stage, they called my name and gave me an award as a thank you, a commemorative award for spending a 4-month period of my life over in Beijing for their company. And I proceeded to take my shirt off and show them my Olympic tattoos on my back and jump around on stage, and apparently made quite an ass of myself. And none of this I really, really remember that much. But I was told afterwards that it was pretty crazy what I did. And then I went back and just sat at the table with them like it was nothing. That was typical behavior, things that I did. I just did crazy, stupid things, it was kind of out of my mind. And so I thought nothing of it, sat there and had my dinner and drank the rest of the night, and then went back the next day, flew, I was there for 14 hours, and same thing. I kept calling and texting like, oh my God, she like changed her number or something like that. What is going on? So I started like texting or calling, and this is like the beginning of the texting. So like when you get on your flip phone, you have to, when you want to press C, you have to press A 3 times, right? So I'm sending these cryptic texts, and I can't, all I did was drink. So like, the words where you look like it was in Czechoslovakia. And I remember looking at the text afterwards, like, no wonder people aren't replying to me. But I reached out to a few friends, like, have you heard from Alejandra? And nobody replied. One person did, and like, no, I haven't. And so I had stocked up. I went and got, I wasn't supposed to be drinking. So the first thing I did when I got home was I went to the store and got a 30-pack, a bottle of tequila, and, maybe some saltines and Cheez-Its or something like that for food, for nutrition. And I just drank. I just drank and drank and drank. And all I did was drink and pass out. And I wake up and, threw up, whatever, have a few beers and fall asleep on the couch, wake up all foggy, like, what am I going to do now? I'll go out back and drink. And so I just did that. I was just kind of a mess for a couple of days. And then it got really bad. I was just kind of falling down. I was really weak. I couldn't really eat anything. I had heartburn so bad that, even like a saltine would really kind of give me heartburn. And even the beer was giving me heartburn. But, what else was I going to do, right? And, it got to the point where, I was really scared. I was not suicidal, but I certainly didn't want to live. I was just really, really bummed out. Like I fucked my marriage. I didn't go to work for 3 days, no call, no show. And then I had like a private event. I used to do food demos, and I got paid pretty good money to go to appliance stores and demonstrate some cooking techniques on their equipment and help the salesman try to sell it. I totally blew off 2 of those, no call, no shows. So, I mean, I really just didn't even know what was going on. I just shut everything down. I'm like, I just don't care anymore. And so I was getting desperately low. I'd already gone to the store at least once. I don't remember. I was getting desperately low. I think I had, 4 or 5 beers left, and, maybe a half a bottle, a quarter bottle of tequila left. And I remember I got to go to the store. I need to go to the store. I need to get more. That's not enough to get me through the night. And the store's not open over the night. And so, I gotta go take a shower. These cold sweats are just, and I'm really, really tired. I'm blacking out here. Let me go in the shower and at least let the water kind of splash down on my face and let me get cleaned up. Let me see if I can get rid of the cold sweats. So I remember sitting in the shower, just sort of standing, I don't know, sitting, probably a little bit of both, holding on for dear life so I didn't fall, and just letting the water hit me and just praying to God, like, to send me an angel, like send me somebody. I used to say to my friend George, like, I told him my problems before, and he was a family friend, and like, send George, send anybody, I don't care, send Curious George, whatever. I need, send me somebody, send me some help. I'm legitimately scared. I don't even know if I can make it to the store. I'm certainly going to have to walk. And so I shut the water off, dried off, and I had my clothes laid on the bed in our house, and our house was for sale, like I said. And I open up the door, and boom, there's a realtor and a nice young couple, like, with their my jaw hit the ground, and like, kind of like Ren and Stimpy, just like literally like a cartoon character, like an over exaggerated jaw drop. I'm like, oh my God, they were just standing there, and I was completely naked, and probably swaying around, and, everybody's in shock. And then they slowly backed away, and I slowly backed away, shut the door. And I'm like, that's it. That was it. That was enough for me. That was the angels that, God sent me, that I asked for. So that was a spiritual awakening, as they call it. That was my spiritual awakening. So, I opened up the door, and like, they're driving away now. So I got changed, and I remember going into the kitchen and just dumping out all the beers, the last 4 or 5 beers, and the tequila, and threw the empties out in the trash. And like, now what? Let's wait for Alejandro to come home tomorrow, and eat some saltines. I'll eat what I can, and drink a lot of water, and try and feel better. And so that's kind of what happened. And she came home, and I said I was sorry. I didn't really tell her what happened. I just told her that I was done. This time was different. I was going to go to treatment. She basically said, if you don't go to treatment, I'm moving out. And so she said, well, if you don't go to treatment now, I already have an apartment lined up. I'm like, I don't feel well enough. I really don't. I mean, you can drive me there, but I'm not going to. It's not like I can just say, all right, I'm starting right now. I wasn't in that bad of a shape that I needed to detox. I was shaky and a shell of myself, but I really didn't, thankfully, need to detox. So I said, I'll wait till Monday or Tuesday or whatever. I'll go there. And so that's what I did. But she said, if you don't go now, I'm getting an apartment. And she did. She got an apartment, and, it was like 3 miles away. I'm like, oh, this makes no sense. You were going to pay for an apartment, and we're having trouble paying for the house. Money's a problem here. And like, whatever, so I couldn't, she had gone to the therapist when I was in China, and she was strong enough to make that decision. So, for years she tried to help me, and, I don't want to say she'd push me away, but she couldn't. I needed to help myself. And that's where treatment came in. I walked in there, and this big burly of a guy, a Harley Davidson guy, help you? I'm like, help me. Yeah. I mean, he's like, what are you here for? I'm here to get some information about treatment. He's like, I know you. I'm like, you do? He's like, yeah. He's like, you're an alcoholic. I'm like, well, maybe, probably. I don't know. He's like, you came here to get information. He's like, you're also an asshole. I'm like, what? Like, why are you calling me an asshole? He's like, you're here for information. What's information going to do for you? Like, get treatment, sign up. I'm like, whoa, guy, like, are you getting commission off this? Thinking to myself, why are you being so pushy? And I'm like, why are you being so harsh on me? And I don't think I know you. He's like, that's right, you don't, but you are an alcoholic, and information is not going to do you anything. about this place. You want a brochure, a pamphlet? Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of want to know what I'm getting myself into. He's like, what lengths did you go to drink and use drugs? Like any? I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I went to Mattapan to buy a 9-bag, and, you know, I hung out some real seedy places, and I took a lot of risks. I had, you know, 3 DUI hit and run accidents that I could have killed other people and killed myself, and, you know, arrested for drugs. And, you know, I did a lot of bad things and took a lot of risks. So yeah, I mean, I kind of went to great lengths. You know, I would do almost anything. I mean, I wouldn't prostitute or anything like that, you know. Yeah, he's like, then what lengths would you go to get better? I'm like, would you do anything? I said, yeah, I guess so. He's like, why wouldn't you sign up? And I say, well, I got to figure out the money. Money's a problem. Money, you know, money, you can always make more money. You know, tomorrow may never come. You can go home right now, all pissed off, all the self-pity, and start drinking again. You could die. You look like you're in rough shape, and that's just the reality of it. And, you know, well, I got to talk to my wife. What's your wife going to, she may or may not come back to you. How's she going to feel if you get better? You're increasing the odds there. I'm like, yeah, good point. And then work, you're going to be a better employee. And like, yeah, another good point. Like, so finally, you know, he just used to kind of saying all this stuff. And I was thinking to myself, you know, I think I'll just sign up to shut this guy up. And I haven't paid anything. I don't have to show up. But then once I kind of literally just like signed up in the paper, and it was like a huge burden, a huge weight was lifted off my shoulder. You know, he said a couple of things then, and then they also said things over the course of the treatment that, you know, 1 is too much and 200 is not enough. You know, it was super powerful. You know, I can never drink not even one drink again, because that would trigger binge drinking, and I'm drinking like I wanted to. You know, I could never drink again. That was the reality of it. And knowing that, you know, God was in my life. God sent me those angels. God put me in that treatment. There was a God that was watching out for me. That was powerful.
What was it when you were in rehab? What was it like kind of mentally and physically for you because it was the first time in your life you hadn't drank or gotten blackout drunk, and, you know, who knows how long. So like how did that clarity of your mind happen? And like, what did your body go through?
Yeah, I mean, it was really strange in the beginning. In the beginning, it was like, you know, that sigh of relief. But then it was like going to college. It was like learning about myself, learning about the disease, how to live life on life's terms, you know, how to use, you know, for years, for 20 plus years, I just kind of suppressed my emotions. I didn't deal with stuff. Like, I wasn't going to go somewhere, and like, I never went to work, like with jobs that like, I'm not going today because I don't have any weed, or I'm not going to that party unless I get prime first, you know. It was huge. Like, and one thing that was really weird is like all the madness. Like, I used to like sit there at work, and how distracting could this be? I'd sit there and think, oh, my wife's I got to work at 1 today, and she's getting out of work at 4. That means I have about 3 hours to get to the store, get the amount of beers I want. How much money do I have? How much money can I sneak? You know, I'd go to the supermarket and get like $20 cash back, you know, and like, all right, I can get a 6-pack. I can get 2 liters, and I'll get a small bottle. That's how much I can drink today. So I'd start plotting and planning all the drinking. That all went away. You know, how I was going to get the money, and where I was going to drink, and how much I was going to drink. That went away. So that opened up a lot of clarity. And then, I realized I had these emotions, whether it was, you know, extreme sadness or anger or happiness or love or whatever. All those, they just became really raw. Everything just kind of became really raw and real. And to deal with them.
Because you weren't suppressing them anymore with drugs and alcohol. So you were like allowing yourself, probably for the first time in a long time, actually feel real emotion.
Yeah, I just started looking at things differently, you know, and dealing with them differently. You know, it kind of, nothing was that big of a deal before. When I was using, everything was a big deal. Everything was like stressful. And, you know, it's like yesterday, I just kind of had a hard day. It was just whatever. It was kind of, Sebastian was off, and my mom was off, and, you know, Alejandra, I don't know, we just, whatever. It was mostly me, but everybody was just kind of off. It was just kind of really weird. And I found my anger coming out, and Alejandra called me out on it. You know, it's just time to revert back to the way you were, you know. Just kind of a squirrely mess or whatever, and just kind of lashing out on little things. But before, every little thing was a problem. And, you know, when I was in treatment, then like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's not worth getting angry over. it kind of taught me to, not sweat the small things as much. Yeah, I mean, it really, it ended up saving my life. It ended up guiding me down the best path I could.
So it's interesting because you said that when you got healthy, that you were a dry drunk for a while and that you didn't have a hobby. And I'm very familiar with this because there's alcoholism in my family as well on both sides. And so I was interested in how did you pick up any other hobbies before you got into your main hobby?
We didn't really do much. Like our friends, I wasn't hanging around with the same crowd. I moved back to Boston from Arizona, and I wasn't really hanging around with the same crowds. Like some of my friends, their kids were older, they moved further away. And so, I started running into problems because Saturday morning I'd wake up and like, let's go for breakfast. It's 7:00. Let's go down. I was like, it's 7:00. We don't eat breakfast at 7. It's breakfast at 7:00. I'm like, I'm hungry. I got nothing else to do. The house is clean and, that type of thing. So I started walking distance with the dog. And then once Sebastian was born, and as the story goes, we'd gone back to Arizona for the first time since really, since I moved to Boston and I left in my friend's bedroom. And the spare bedroom, we stayed with them. And Sebastian was 10 months old. And it's 3:00 in the morning, 2-hour time zone in January. And he's wide awake. He gave milk. He's wide awake. Like, what do we do? We can't turn the TV. We can't do it. So I ended up like, Alejandro's like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to take him for a walk. So the plan was to go around the cul-de-sac, until he fell asleep. So I brought iced coffee. I brought an extra thing of milk just in case, we're out there a little bit longer than I imagined we would be. And after a couple laps around the circle there, I found my way out into the neighborhood, and then he's just kicking his feet. He's happy as a pig in poop and like, whatever. I'm like, I'm up now. Let's keep going. So we ended up going to the mountains and literally, I walked 11 and a half, 12 miles through the foothills. We saw the sunset, sunrise. I took about 500 pictures and, posted them on Facebook. This is the greatest day of my life. We saw a whole pack of coyotes. Like, they're not going to believe this. Anyways, I go back and I get the 11 and a half miles, whatever it was. And I woke up Alejandra. I'm like, we got back and they're not even awake yet. And I told her, and she's like, she didn't believe me. I'm like, check Facebook, or here, check my BlackBerry, And, like a seed was planted, like all of it. Like I would walk to Harvard Square and it was 2 miles and 2 miles back. That was kind of far. And I walked to my parents' house. It was 3 miles from our apartment. And I would pick Sebastian up, so the walking kind of helped, but it wasn't enough. I liked that adventure, but I didn't get like that adrenaline rush of and the endorphins and the serotonin that running kind of gives you. So we had the opportunity in May of 2013 to go visit our friends in Corning, New York. And my friend had quit smoking. I'd say he's, pack and a half a day before, overweight, sedentary. And they moved from Arizona to Corning, New York. And they worked at Corning and they were, they make glass, different things, Corning ware. He was I forget what his title was, but he was an engineer out there, and so was his wife. And we were going to visit them, and there was a puppet show. There was all sorts of different activities for this Glass Fest weekend, Memorial Day weekend. And one of the things was an 8K race. So I just asked him, like, hey, Enrique, I see that there's an 8K race. Are you running it? Because I saw that he ran the Disney half and the Corning half, the wine glass half the previous year. And he said, I'll run if you do. I'm like, well, shit, sign me up. I've been thinking about running after the Boston Marathon bombing, and I tried it a few times, and, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I'll train for this. I can do it. I have a few weeks. And so I went out a couple times with Sebastian. I did 4 miles and then like 3 miles. I'm like, well, the hay's in the barn, we're out of time now. I'm never going to be any more ready than I am now. And we went out there, and I didn't even know how far an 8K was. And, the gun went off, so to speak, and this is the national anthem, and there we go. And I'm running, and like the first 30 seconds, I'm like, this is great. And then, oh my God, the side stitches, the wind, the legs, and all of a sudden getting lactic acid built up in my quads. And, oh, this sucks. I hate this. And I'll just turn back. I'll quit. It's too bad because I thought maybe I'd find a hobby that I liked. And it's like, shut up and keep going, shut up and keep going. And every time a runner passed me, I literally like, why didn't they bring a hockey stick? I'd crack one of them over the head or throw some marbles down or a banana peel. And I hated it. You know, I'm like, this sucks. And I started getting more and more angry. I'm like, this is so, running is so stupid, you know? And so, you know, the voices in my head were just very powerful and negative. And I could see, like, I got to a certain point, I'm like, holy shit, look, there's like an inflatable arch. There's the track. There's the high school. I think I'm going to finish this. I must have like a mile left or so. And went down the hill, and I remember seeing Alejandra and my friend's wife there, Maritza, they're with the other two kids, and like, holy shit, I'm going to finish this. And I finished. I went around the track, and I got like a glass extruded medallion from Corning and a banana and a water and gummies. And it was like the greatest feeling of my life, you know, besides marriage and childbirth and stuff. But it changed me, you know. I didn't quit. I didn't give up. And, you know, we go through these emotions like, this sucks. I hate this. I'm never doing this again. This is too bad. To when can I do this again? You know, and I had asked Enrique, can I use your computer when we get back? And he said, sure. And Alejandra's like, what for? I'm like, I want to check to see if there's any road races in Waltham, Massachusetts. So I like Googled road running races, Waltham, Massachusetts. And I found there was a race the next weekend, and there was a race around Waltham series. And I'm like, holy shit, this is awesome. So I signed up. She's like, you sure you want? I'm like, yeah, I think I do. And so when I got there, I found there was people from high school that were just like me, you know, that lost weight or were in recovery and found running. And so it was, despite my sketchy past and my reputation in Waltham, Massachusetts, I was immediately accepted in that community. I'm like, oh my God, I got new friends. Like, they're instantly my friends, like, you know, exchanging numbers, let's go on runs together. And it was super cool. And there was a race the next weekend, same thing. I met some more people and I was hooked. So I found this website called Cool Running. My friend Randy told me about it. Coolrunning.com. You can find any race you want, you know, anywhere pretty much. So all of a sudden, Alejandra, can I go to Marshfield and run a 5K on Saturday morning? Like, what? You know, you just ran the last 2 weekends, and, you know, and you were trashed afterwards, and, you know, it took up the whole day, and just this one. And then, you know, the following weekend is like, there's one in Lincoln and there's another one over there. And so I was kind of obsessed with the whole racing thing. And then once I started seeing results, you know, my time drop and it getting a little bit easier, I started running a little bit further. And then I knew that I wanted to do like a marathon distance. I did the Boston half marathon and did well in October, the first year running. And then I signed up for the Pittsburgh Marathon, and I was hooked at marathon distance. And then I found out about the ultra world. And then, you know, again, like nothing in moderation with addicts, you know, it was like more. What's the progression? You know, there's no finish line. You know, I'm grateful for some of the accomplishments I've done, but like, you know, what lengths can I go to find, to go beyond my perceived barriers? You know, how can I push myself further? How can I go further? So I'm always seeking like the next challenge. So yeah, I've done a bunch of ultra marathons and crazy things since then.
What's the longest you've gone without running? Like, how many days in a row? Or have there been days in a row?
Oh yeah. I mean, back home, I would typically run 3 days a week. There was times where I'd run like twice a week or once a week. You know, I just tell people I don't have a training plan. I just run when I can. I've been running pretty much every day out here because I've had the time. So I run when I have time, and I try not to interfere with family time. I'll go out 4 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning, and I'll come back around 8 or 9. And, you know, I'll typically get longer runs on the weekends. And then during the week, I'm usually home. I have to be home. I don't have to, but I choose to be home to be present for my family and get Sebastian and ready for the day and remote learning. So I'm usually home by 7:30. So a couple of days during the week, I'll just walk with Winnie the dog, and we'll go 3, 4, 5 miles, whatever. And the other days I'll run. So I typically will run, say, 4 days a week, you know, a couple shorter runs and a couple really longer runs.
If you said earlier, you know, those demons, that everybody has demons and those voices in your head that, you know, try to convince you to regress to bad behaviors. Do you find, like, if you go 3 or 4 days in a row without running, do those voices get louder, or do you know how to quiet them better?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know what to do this morning. I mean, I ran every day this week, and today I was gonna rest. Just not that my body's tired, but, you know, I got like 4 hours of sleep, and the plan was just to kind of take it easy today and recover. And I was gonna go to Masshole Donuts, and they says they're open, but they were closed. Starbucks was closed. So I started obsessing, like, I just want a coffee and a pastry. That's all I want. I just need to get out of the house. And then I had to get gas for the car. Like, every freaking gas station's closed. It's New Year's Day. I mean, it's not that it's a major holiday, but it's just New Year's Day. And so then I went back home, and I'm sitting at home, and I'm like, I just got this cabin fever. Finally, the sun's out. I can't be inside. I've been complaining about the lack of sunlight. So I just found myself in the car, and then I just navigated the Prospect Hill. Like, maybe I'll feel better if I trash my legs going up the hill and play around on the trail. So I just did like a little over 3 miles, and, it was the best thing for me. Just, it doesn't have to be a 4-hour run. It can just be something, just getting out of my own head. But if I do go 3 or 4 days, I do notice that I start to tend to turn into that monster that I don't want to be, a squirrely mess.
So, Henry, you're a huge advocate for others in this space and treatment and recovery, and you're doing a lot of running to raise awareness and money for others that can't afford treatment. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So a couple of things I've done in the past, how it all started. I did a 12-hour treadmill at my friend's gym in Corning, New York. They had like 5 gyms, and I went back when my running career started. That was February of 2017. And then I did my first Boston Quad, which is the marathon course 4 consecutive times, all raising money for people with addiction that can't afford it, or pays for aftercare and stuff. And then we had made the decision to move to Arizona by then, and the weather was absolutely horrible for my Boston Quad. There's, a lot of runners that people couldn't come out there. They couldn't find us because of the weather, or they didn't really want to drive. It was just kind of it was basically a nor'easter that ripped through. And since a lot of people couldn't come out, I convinced Alejandra, can I do a 24-hour track run before we move? And the same thing, another fundraising concept. And, there he is again. Every 2 minutes, he's going to pass by, and that was really neat. And same thing when on Concord Street in Belmont, every time a car pulled up, you see the headlights in the night or something, like, that's another runner, fresh blood, a fresh runner, fresh energy. So I did that, and those events, the media got wind of it, and it really, I got to share my story on a different level, and I had people sending me messages. Private messages, people I didn't even know, thanking me for sharing my story, gave them the courage to start a fitness program, or, they'd ask me about, what works, a little bit more about what works for me, or I have a spouse or a child that's suffering. What do you suggest? And we never know the impact of who we're touching, right? Some people will tell you, thank you for doing what you do. But, I think the idea is to share the gifts that God give you. If you don't, it's selfish. So in the beginning, I didn't even tell my sisters or my cousins, right? People that I think they probably suspected or knew that I was an alcoholic, but they didn't know that I got separated. They didn't know I went to treatment. I didn't figure it was anybody's business. And then it was like, it's selfish not to share. It's selfish not to share. Treatment saved my life, and I could save somebody else's. What do I have to lose? First it was like, what do I have to gain by telling people? What do I have to lose? Nothing. I didn't want to be. Alcoholics don't want to be the way they are. It's a disease. I didn't want to be the way I was. That's why, it took a while and took great strength to get help. But there's help out there. There's resources. So, I was able to share my story really with the world, with social media and in the actual media. So then we moved. I did the track run. Then we moved to Arizona, and I had broken my foot at Amy's house, my sister Amy's, a week before it was Father's Day. It was my anniversary, and it was Jaden's birthday celebration. We said goodbye. It was kind of a goodbye party for us too, and said goodbye 50,000 times. And we're in the front yard, and coming off the soccer ball playing keep away, and all of a sudden, snap, crackle, pop, I broke my leg, and drove cross country, and then started work. And once my foot got better, I did one more fundraiser, and it was a run around the desert. So it was like 110 degrees, 24-hour run around Tempe Town Lake. And this is all for a stage race in Patagonia. And I raised over $12,000 for that. And all the money went to people that can't afford treatment. And so I did that stage race, and then I kind of still that was over, it was kind of anticlimactic. It's over. And What else? I knew I could give more. So I just did the Boston quad again. I did the Mesa Marathon quad. Then I did in February of 2018. And I did the Boston quad. I had actually qualified and came back here in Boston and ran my first official Boston marathon. So the actual marathon was the 4th marathon. So I start at the finish line, go to the start, go to the finish line, and then went to the start, had a bunch of media interviews, and then ran the actual marathon. And then did the same thing in 2019. And same thing with the Mesa Marathon quad. And then, 2020 happened. 2020 was canceled. And so we did it virtual. So I did it I decided I wasn't going to do it. I'm tired of these virtual things, but I ended up doing it from my driveway. I had a banner that we put in the garage, and, I had a bunch of friends that came with me, or different parts, just like the other ones too. And we just safely ran and exchanged stories about recovery and mental health, and, just really opened up dialogue about stuff. And the media got wind of that too. So, it's all over Arizona, all over the place. And, I've probably raised over $20,000. And then, so this pandemic has given me the time to work on my own thing. So in September, I started my own 501(c) with the same name as my book, Running Without the Devil. And I'm raising money for this very same thing.
I think what you said, Henry, about like it's selfish not to share your story. I think one of the things we try to do, Lindsey and I, is have open and honest conversations about things that people might be struggling with, and removing stigma around mental health and addiction and whatever. And we've talked a lot about anxiety and depression and eating disorders and different things like that on this podcast. And you can't lose by being honest. And you can only really help people who might be struggling in that same.
I think it's important to educate the children too.
Yes.
Start them young. I mean, my son's he's heard me speak. He's heard me speak for an hour about my addiction and my story, just like I'm sharing with you. He's seen me on the news, and which is pretty cool, but he has many questions too. It's in our generation before, it was swept under the rug. We shall not talk about dad's car rolling down the hill, or, we shouldn't talk about the problems that happen behind closed doors. I think it's important to be transparent, because I could see some addictive behavior, in him,
Mm-hmm.
So I want to tell him, you got to be careful, man, and kind of tell him like it is without holding anything back.
Is he going to be allowed to read your book?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I don't go to that real dark place, I talk about my rock bottom and stuff, and he's heard me say that, numerous times, and, talk about him. Absolutely. I don't have anything to hide with him either,
Was that a very cathartic experience for you writing the book, or were there some points that were difficult to kind of relive?
No, it is my story. It is what it is. It did, I'd say I have a lot of gray matter, a lot of damage from drinking, I killed a lot of brain cells. So I forget a lot of things, or I suppressed a lot of things, but it did bring back some memories that I kind of just totally forgot about. Good and bad, but it wasn't like, super sad or depressing or anything like that to sit down there and try to get through a chapter or something now.
Has Alejandro read it?
I don't know. I forwarded to her the Google Doc, like a month ago, and said, you could read it if you want to, or you can wait till it's in the editing. I'm getting it professionally edited. So I just sent her kind of the raw, no word is more than 5 letters or 2 consonants, 2 it's just you can tell it's me. Yeah, 2 syllables. You can tell that I wrote it, but no, I said, you can read it if you want.
I'm sure it would be hard for her to relive some of the stuff that you've shared in the book, but I'm sure she's incredibly proud of you.
She is. She's proud of me, and she's heard the whole story. She lived the story too, and she's heard me speak numerous times. She's proud of me. She has gone on some podcasts and some radio and TV interviews with me as well. And we had one a few weeks ago. It was in Spanish and English, and I just sent her the link so she could listen. And all of a sudden, I come out of the waiting room, and she's talking to our friend Melissa, and they're talking in Spanish. And she spent the whole time in the actual podcast, the actual interview. So she shared from, the enabler side, the Al-Anon side. It really, she really learned a lot about me and learned a lot about alcoholism. She did her research, and she she still works in herself about that, self-development, and she reads the Al-Anon book and stuff like that.
What advice would you give our listeners if they're struggling with addiction, or like Alejandro, trying to support someone who's struggling?
If you think you have a problem, you probably do. If there's a question, "Oh, gee, I'm having 1 or 2 drinks every day. Does that mean I have a problem?" Well, if you're asking yourself that question, you probably do. If you're relying like that as your crutch at the end of the day, like, all right, I'm going to sit down now and have 1 or 2 or 3 glasses of wine every night, then I would say you have a problem. If you every time you drink in excess, you have a problem. Go get help. I mean, there's free things out there such as AA or whatever, just psychotherapy and stuff. Talk to somebody. I tell people, I didn't feel that it was anybody else's business. You can talk to a complete stranger. I've talked to people just on the streets or just trail running about stuff, just to get it out of your own mind. Sometimes your mind's not a great place to be in, to go in alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's help out there. It takes great strength to ask for help, especially I think men, right? They're just like kind of proud, like they want to ask for driving directions. If you don't want to be the way you are, then get help.
So you've done ultra marathons, you've written a book. Like, what's kind of next with your, drive to sort of achieve more? Do you have like a specific goal for Running Without the Devil, or are you still figuring that out?
Yeah, so I have a few fundraising concepts that I've already launched and will be doing in the upcoming year. I'd like to eventually, when things get back to somewhat normal, to do like professional speaking engagements, whether it's at a high school or in a corporation or on a Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
I've done a bunch just for free now and just kind of practiced or whatever, but I'd like to do that as a career, giving back. Let's see. So I just launched my first virtual race. So it's a Run Across America / Mexico. So it's either 2,700 miles or 1,850 miles. And also like a 500 thing to get people started, 500-mile club to get people started. And then proceeds from that will go to get people treatment. I registered for a 66.6-hour Satan Sidewalk treadmill event, which is happening, guess when? A month from yesterday.
Oh my God.
So I belong to a gym, but my membership's kind of deferred, and I don't know that I'll get a chance to even get on the Satan Sidewalk treadmill thing until then, but I'm going to be doing that at a friend's gym, kind of in a remote area in the back, and that'll be a fundraising concept. And then since the Mesa Marathon has been canceled, I'm going to do the virtual marathon like I did with Boston. So I'll run from my driveway and eventually wind up in South Mountain, go 7.5 miles up the Summit Road, turn around, go back home, see my family, hopefully not puke my brains out again like last time, and then use my house as an aid station, see them off, and then go to the Summit Road and come back. So I'm basically doing the 104.8 mile 4 marathons in a row. And then I might I plotted out a route to do Hole to Home, which is the Grand Canyon to my house, which is about 260 miles. I might try to pull that off in March or April, but I don't know that I want to, force too many things in kind of a short period of time. I mean, I feel like I recover pretty well, but in these uncertain times, like I don't know if I'm going back to work. I assume I'm not. And I don't know, Sebastian's birthday's that month, and I don't want to take too much time away from family. But March or April, Boston's on happening in April, so that would be a good slot for that. And then in May, I signed up for the Cocodona 250-mile endurance run. So it starts in Black Canyon City, Arizona, and then you go through Prescott, through Jerome, and then the lovely Red Rock of Sedona, all the mountains all along the Mogollon Rim, and then you finish in Flagstaff at Heritage Square. So it's 30,000 feet of climbing, probably take 5 days to do, but that will be a challenge.
Will that be your biggest physical challenge to date?
I think so. Yeah. But, and I always tell people, when you're doing these things, you can kind of draw back to the times in active addiction where, the going gets tough. It was a lot harder back then. So I'm sure I'll be relying on that mentality when I'm doing that. Yeah. The most I've done is 110 miles. And that's just because we got lost. The 2018, I had the directions, the reverse directions for the Mesa Marathon. We left from the expo, and I had the reverse directions, and going to the start line on laminated. On the other side, I had the real directions, and we went the wrong way from the get-go. So I tacked on 2.5 bonus miles. Like, wait, where's the Wendy's? Why are we going under the 202? And why are we passing the Cubs stadium, the Cubs Cactus League stadium? There's nothing like that on the maps. Oh shit! So we went back to the start line, and then we took a few other wrong turns, or whatever. It's like nothing you can do about it. But
I felt pretty good about my 30-minute yoga workout this morning until now. So I'm gonna have to go back home and do 12 more.
do it 4 times.
Exactly. Oh
yeah,
man.
no, the human body's incredible. It really is. If people say I couldn't do 2 miles, I couldn't do 30 minutes on the treadmill, or I couldn't run 5 miles. Like, of course you can. You have to want to do it, right? Have the desire.
There's a mental component.
Yeah, and then there's a training element, but a lot of it is up here.
Yeah.
You got to put the time in physically, but a lot of it is in the head.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Henry, for sharing your story. It's truly inspirational.
You're welcome.
Thank you just for your candor and honesty. I think a lot of people will relate and just find inspiration in it. So thank you.
Yeah.
So this is the part of the podcast where we talk about what's in the box.
I'll show you what the box. What's in the box?
Weird things that we've purchased online or during the pandemic. So I can share mine first. It's actually something my husband bought for me. So thoughtful. He bought me long underwear. That's the point where we're at in our marriage, guys. Yes. So no, because we're
cover up
right
completely.
Exactly. Nobody needs to see that, Liz. Because we're in a pandemic and we only socialize outdoors these days around fire pits. He bought long underwear for both of us with matching sets, twinsies. Yes. Yeah. So, we can keep socializing and seeing people outside around the fire pit for as long as we humanly possibly can, because again, we're so isolated and people are just craving human interaction and engagement. And so we're going to try to, keep seeing people for as long as we possibly can, even in 10-degree weather here in New England. So thanks, Dan, for the long underwear. Henry, what about you?
Drone Home. Have you seen the commercials with Drone Home? It's a fun little game. So it's kind of like there's 4 different things that come in, kind of like Hungry Hippos. You hit this thing and you shoot this little alien into a pod, which is basically the drone in the middle. So you get it, you shoot in the middle, it goes into the magnet, and then it flies away. It hits the ceiling and flies away and crashes. And if you do that 4 times, you get all your aliens, home, then you win the game. So the game lasted 10 minutes.
Don't you hate that? So all excited.
So it's kind of like a balloon, right? Balloons, nothing good comes from balloons. You get a balloon, it either flies away, pops, or it starts, you're in the car, it's hitting you in the face.
Weapon,
Kids always said, yeah, they're just kind of created by the devil too, right? So, the kids always end up crying in the end. And so that's kind of what happened, And we read the reviews, the game was really, really fun, but it didn't last more than 10 minutes. And it was literally 10 minutes. It broke from hitting the ceiling and crashing. So as much joy as it brought us in the beginning, we are sending it back to the North Pole.
Good to know, yes.
It's already at Kohl's. It's in a better place. But that was quite traumatic.
I know.
Yeah.
That's a letdown. What about you, Linz?
My what's in the box is a pretty funny story. So the company I work for sent out what we would call Jelly of the Month Club to everyone. Mine never came. And so I was like, well, maybe I was left off the list for some reason. And then I kept joking with my husband that I would get it on Christmas Eve, just like in Christmas Vacation. So my husband was cleaning off the snow and the ice on Christmas Eve, and he knocks on our front door, which is our old front door, not where we get packages. And I was like, why is he knocking on the front door? And he was knocking just like in Christmas Vacation. And he had cleaned off the, 16 inches of snow we had gotten before. And he gives me this wet package. And he goes, here's your Jelly of the Month Club.
Oh, how long has it been sitting there?
I have no idea. God. And it was wet. And so our company sent everybody a game that wasn't selling well either, Henry. So let's just say that it might be moldy and wet. And I had gotten it out of the box and laid it on the table, thinking that it was okay. And our table is like walnut and nice. And like my son lifted it up and he goes, Mom, there's like, and I'm like, oh my God, the Jelly of the Month Club is ruining my table. So that was my what's in the box story.
Slap in the face to your company send you a game that they made, but they can't sell. Like, I've got so much extra in the warehouse.
Let's just ship them on out. So anyways, Henry, your story is very near and dear to my heart. As I said, alcoholism runs in my family on both sides, but my dad was an alcoholic through growing up. And when my son was born, I put my foot down and told him that he wasn't going to be allowed to be around my son and take him anywhere if he was going to continue to drink. And it was really tough because he denied, we went through all the stages of grief as you would, like denial, anger. And he said he would go to AA in the morning. And, I said it was fine when we were younger for you to drive us around when you were not sober. And, that's tough saying that in front of my mom and my dad.
Sure.
And he was angry, but then he kind of dealt with it and I left. And he went to AA the next day and my mom and I talked about it and I was like, this might not stick. Just like all the other times growing up, he would do I'm on the wagon, and then he would slowly jump off the wagon, and he did it. And I think that was his rock bottom. And so it was pretty awesome. And he did it for my son. And he has been sober my son's 13. So I really appreciate you sharing, because I think it hits a lot of people more than anyone knows.
Mm-hmm. Or more than people might want to admit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Henry, your book is available for purchase at runningwithoutthedevil.com. Yes?
That's correct. Yeah. I have personalized copy. I have a paperback and an ebook. And it's, like I said before, it's currently in the editing process. Hope to have it out in print by February 1st.
Nice.
And where can people find you on social media, Henry?
On Facebook, I'm Chef Henry Ward. That's my personal profile. And then I have a page for Running Without the Devil. On Instagram, I have a personal page, Henry Ward 3, and then also a page for Henry Running Without the Devil 2. I don't really do Twitter or anything like that, but yeah. And then if you want to send me an email, henry@runningwithoutthedevil.com, you can hit me up there. Send me a private message or whatever. If someone's suffering, don't suffer in silence. Reach out to me. I don't have all the answers, but I can kind of tell you what works for me or point you in the right direction.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Thank you so much, Henry. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Henry.
You're welcome.
We'll
Thanks a
talk
lot.
to you soon. Good luck with the book.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year. Bye.